Welcome back as we wrap up the final video of this series for design challenges. We got a great one for you today, design critique. These are much rarer, but they have their own flair. Let's talk about it. Okay, so when it comes to design challenges that you're going to be doing design critiques on, these are a little bit different than having to do a take-home or a design that you're going to do on a whiteboard. This is a lot more of taking something that already exists and providing guidance on how to improve it or make it better, less so on being, oh, you have an idea as a business, I want to take that idea and I want to make something new, or I want to add something on top of it, or things like that. We're really trying to understand, how are you taking those existing designs and how are you really being fair to where they could have been, and also how do you suggest things on where they could be next, or see within the process of how things are already operating, how you could then assert yourself into that work stream. It's a lot different from when you're doing the other two. And we really don't see too much of these design critiques. I've probably seen it more so for senior roles, because the senior roles are the ones that are gonna have to help create roadmaps and things outside of just creating artifacts that's going to be for a project that usually junior level designers do. When it comes to some of the things that are included within this review, one of the important things that they want to know is, how do you evaluate the design? Like, outside of just looking at it and saying that should be moved a pixel here, that should be moved there, how do you kind of look for data to help justify? So for example, if you're seeing a page and instead of just saying we should have put the button over here for reasons that I think is okay because we want them to be expedited in this process, but then you ask them instead, hey, what type of usability testing was done on this to make sure that the button placement is the right area? This helps give the person that's giving you that assessment or working on the interview with you an idea of, you know what, this person actually cares what we had to go through, and they want to see what we have to help support our design ideas. Yes, there's different design patterns and expertise that you could bring, but you also want to make sure that things that you aren't sure of, or where you would make your hypotheses and assumptions, you want to see if they helped find those answers before you ended up getting there. Going into that, they also want to know about those hypotheses. So when you come into a design, when you see a design layout, what are you thinking? What questions do you have for the design to make sure that you know the right context of being able to even provide critique or feedback? So instead of jumping in, you have to be aware of your own assumptions that you have, and you could bring it up to whoever you're speaking with to let them know, you know what, based on what I see, these are some things I'm assuming. Is this correct? As I'm going through the designs, I want to see if these things are correct. You might have some baseline things that you want to make sure, like there's consistency, is very plain language for copy, depending on where your expertise lies. But you really building some sort of hypothesis to be like, okay, based on how I've seen this site and what I've researched with this company, these are some things that I can imagine what we were doing. Is it true? Let's find out as we go through the process. Another thing that's very important for them is, after you gather all this data, after you have looked through, brainstorm, found a bunch of different solutions and really started to piece things together, how do you make it in a digestible format when you deliver it back to the people? So when you provide the feedback, is it cohesive? Is it really easy to follow and understand? Are you using language that the business may know or the business may not know? You're helping to educate them on different terms as to why that's a problem or why that's good or bad. These are things that you're going to want to have to really figure out. And just like, I find it the most fun because I really love the presentation part and just like kind of bouncing off of energy. But really do take at least a few minutes to prepare at least, okay, these are the most important things that we have to talk about, and we could walk them through it, no problem. Another thing that you could be looking for is to show them what part of the experience do you prioritize. Yes, we want to be UX designers, product designers, UI designers, copy, research, anything of the sort. There's so many different things that we could be, but when we go through an exercise, when we show work, and especially because we usually have a crunch time and less time to do these things when we're with an interview, it's really easy for them to see, where do you focus. Are you somebody that really wants to sit down and go deep into the problem statements that were happening and just go focus on, okay, what were the underlying problems that this experience was trying to find out? Or were you trying to be somebody that's looking to help piece together, you know what, the UI, the brand is supposed to be saying these things, but the UI and the copy aren't really reflecting those brands. So I laser focus on those, and I saw those as having a mismatch between what I saw the vision and the mission statement was, and even the brief you told me, versus actually what's being displayed. So you're really kind of painting that fine line between what makes sense and what has to be there, but what your eyes look at and focus on, because everything else you can be blinded to, but you're really focused on something that'll help whoever is looking at see, okay, their skills lean a little bit more in the T-shape for this part of the experience versus this one. So one of the tips I have for the design exercise is to perform a UX audit. A UX audit is great because you're sitting there and you're trying to understand what were the business goals and requirements that help lead us to these designs. This goes back to the hypothesizing of starting to make a list of, these are XYZ things that we can do to make it easier to see. You could even perform something like a usability heuristic analysis. So this, granted, probably won't be a good method for when you are in a setting of like the actual interview if you're doing it in person, but if you have to take it home, or if you have a little bit more time, or if you're really good at these and you could just kind of point out a few areas and really identify these things quickly, the usability heuristic analysis really helps you to get 10 different criteria where you could then map out, okay, this makes sense, this makes sense, this makes sense. For more information on that, you can check out the link below. We're gonna add Nielsen Norman's guide on how to do great usability heuristic testing. As I said before, one thing that you want to do for these type of critiques is choose a focus that you want to have. You're in control of how you are presented as a UX designer, so really think, what skill are you looking to showcase in this critique? So as you're critiquing, are you going to be looking to see what we can do better on the research side? What can we do better on the overall flow, because we want to make sure that the user is going through it as expected and not doing more things than they should have to? Are you looking at it from a UI perspective? Granted, this doesn't mean that you're going to just throw away those other types of areas of the design. Far from it. All I'm saying is that you have a place where you could return to and pivot when you notice you're going off the rails. And those other areas could help support it, but you're really focused on, okay, let's understand this problem and really get down to it and really prove this hypothesis. Or we're just looking to see what are some changes we can make from a heuristic perspective, which makes what exists easily accessible. Really start to focus on what you want to look at and what skills you want to showcase, because that's what you're going to be using in the role, and that's where they're going to be able to see where exactly you shine. I know this one seems kind of obvious, but one thing that I do think we should be doing is empathizing with the user's challenges. So we are UX designers or product designers, but we all are looking for that customer experience to be even better, whatever work we're doing within this process. So if you put some empathy into it, and especially making sure that everybody empathizes, like, the reason why I'm saying these decisions is because when Greg goes to the grocery store, Greg needs to make sure that he has those items delivered to his cart, because his mobility isn't that good and he can't really raise things from like that are over 20 pounds as he used to be able to do before. Like, that's something that you're engrossing them, you're ingraining them into the experience, and you're saying, this is why we need those changes, because I'm thinking in my mind of the customer's lens. So let's have a discussion about it. Really want to put yourself and ground yourself in that area, because at the end of the day, we're looking to help business, but we are looking to make sure we help those end users as well. So for this next one, I think this is really important that us as designers need to do, and I think we have to take some time to look beyond the limitations that the developers or the business was just lazy. I'm a gamer. I know a lot of the times if something goes wrong, the first thing that they go to say is like, why did the developers do this? They're so lazy. They don't understand how we want to play. Or they say business needs to stop being so focused on making money and they need to go and do this. Like, you should take more time to do those things. I understand from a perspective of a user or a customer, they don't see all of the interworkings of the background. So of course their opinion is going to be like that. But if you're going to be working on that team and you know how things pivot, you know how things can't be scoped in because of the time and resources you have. So you do not want to be another added voice to kind of putting down those professionals in their own right. So really make sure that you're not going in there to critique those who you're going to be working with, because you have an idea of what those limitations are. So be aware of them, ask about it, do not assume those type of things, so that you can make sure you're on the same page of, if we had more time, what would we do? Or things like that, instead of, you guys should have done this within this time period because it's part of the best experience. Yeah, it's great, but it's not always realistic that we can go and do whatever we want as designers. We're working with those pairs. So another thing that we want to bring up is, you're going to be bringing up a lot of points and you're going to want to say a lot of things and give a lot of critique to the designs of, oh, this doesn't work because, this doesn't work because. But the most important thing within that phrase is because. You want to not feel like you have to justify everything that you do, or it's like, oh my gosh, you guys need to listen to me, and if you're not listening to me, we're gonna have a terrible relationship, and blah 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 blah. It's not even about that. It's nothing to do with that, actually. This is just to make sure that they understand that where you're coming from. They have an understanding and a shared understanding, so that when you are moving forward with the designs, nobody is like, well, why would we go and make the flow over here? Why are you going to put sign up at the end? Like, you just put it at the end, but you didn't tell us why it's a good idea. It's like, because this is not a product that customers are going to want to or need to sign up before, but they want to explore. And then we want to make sure that when they come in, it's like a fantasy wonderland, like a carnival, and then you go and you select which shop that you want. So that's kind of like what we want for the experience. That's what we're looking to do for it. So really start to think about how to position those things in your mind. Another thing with anything that you do is practice, practice, practice. Take a look at designs, see how you can provide critique, go for a company and see how they did things, and just give them some feedback and some critique on that. So it's just like, it's minor consultation. Probably don't do it if it's unsolicited. If they're like, oh yeah, I just released this website, and then you start going into, oh, you should change this, why did you do that? Let's move this here, move that there. And you're like, hey, would you like an opinion from a designer, from a UX designer, or from myself? I can give you a little feedback if you want. They say no, whatever. If they say yes, then you have that opportunity to practice and let them know what they did wrong, but also show these type of skills of empathizing with their users, with them understanding the limitations and seeing within those constraints what could work. Yeah, people say it's free work, and a lot of people don't like doing free work, but if you're trying to learn and you're trying to really practice, just takes a few minutes of your time to really get into it and show that passion. You don't have to do it, but hey, it's something that I like doing. So now that we've gone through the tips and we got a little bit more information on what they're trying to learn about it, one thing that you're looking to really do is avoid pitfalls like bashing designs. We have all the time constraints in the world, we have all those things, but one thing I really, really want to emphasize right now is do not go into that session looking to be the best designer in the world. Like, had I been on the team, things would have been different. It would have been better. I could have done it. Nobody wants anybody working on the team as a prick. Like, it's not one of those things that you're convince them, oh yeah, you know what? So if this person's gonna come in and be like, yeah, you guys should have done this. I can't believe you guys didn't do that. How did you care about your user experience? This is what I would have done. The team should know better than to. All of those type of words and phrases and bravado. It's like, we don't need that. Like, the team probably understands things may not have worked out the best that they could, or they really like the results because it was such a chaotic mess that they got there that they're just so happy that they got something on board. They got a few customers that they're providing value for, and they just want to improve that experience for those customers. So really don't go in there to go and bash and to bring down what the work was already done, because you're looking on what's something that could be elevated to the next step. This one is also a little bit tricky in terms of the pitfall, is because people within this exercise won't really understand enough about another person's product where they feel comfortable to bring a product unrelated to their industry over there. So one thing I really hope is that you would not really take those ones that provide a critique on a product that they've done or something that they've released. We could go to the route of really starting to understand, okay, you work in the fitness industry, can we do something on the toy industry instead? So you want to be able to critique things that are not related to their business, not related to their actual product that they release, because that could just be free work. And you want them to really be in a perspective of, they are just a client or business or developers, not you have to go in and be giving them free consultation on work that they've already done. That's probably not the best thing to do, especially if you're going for a job where you're uncertain if they're going to take you. But hey man, when ideas are on the table, it's free reign. So we're completing number 3 of our 3-part series for design challenges. Thank you everybody so much for tuning in. If you know of any other tips or tricks or things that you've seen in these challenges that I hadn't mentioned, please leave a comment below. Other than that, be sure to like and subscribe to the video, and we'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace.